My mother-in-law decided to throw boiling water on me after I told her I wasn't going to divorce her precious son. So, naturally I filed assault charges, and wouldn't you know it, she got deported right back to where she came from. Well, family, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a hi in the comments. We always love hearing where you're watching from. With all that said, let's jump right into today's crazy story. Before I even realized what she was doing, that scalding water slammed into my left shoulder. 1 second I was just standing there in my own kitchen minding my business. The next I was screaming my lungs out as boiling hot water burned right through my thin cotton shirt and seared into my skin. My mother-in-law Adeline just stood there, holding the empty kettle, her face all twisted up in this ugly, hateful rage. "You will sign those papers, you ungrateful witch," she hissed at me. I practically collapsed against the kitchen counter, my whole body just shaking like a leaf. The pain was absolutely excruciating, like a million little needles all stabbing me at the same time. Through the tears welling up in my eyes, I could see this look of pure satisfaction on her face. But then, just as quickly, a flicker of panic flashed across her eyes. She'd actually gone and done it. After 6 long months of non-stop threats and twisted manipulation, she'd finally crossed a line that there was absolutely no coming back from. "Ethan!" I screamed for my husband, but deep down, I already knew he wasn't anywhere around. Adeline had planned this whole thing out. She'd waited until he left that morning for his stupid business trip. My hands were shaking so badly as I turned on the cold water, letting it just pour over my burning shoulder. The skin was already starting to blister, and these angry bright red welts were forming right before my eyes. After being a nurse for 8 years, I knew a second-degree burn when I saw one, that's for sure. "You're going to leave my son," Adeline said, her voice now icy cold, all calculated and calm. "You're going to sign the divorce papers I had drawn up. You will take absolutely nothing and just disappear from our lives." I just stared at her, this 63-year-old woman who'd immigrated to this country 30 years ago. The same woman I'd so willingly welcomed into our home just 3 months prior when she'd claimed she had nowhere else to go. The woman I'd cooked for, cleaned for, and even defended to Ethan when he started to suggest she was becoming a little too controlling. "Get out," I whispered, barely able to get the words out. She just smiled, that same smug, self-satisfied smile. "This is my son's house. You get out." I had to drive myself to the emergency room, my right hand just gripping the steering wheel for dear life while my left arm hung uselessly at my side. Every little bump in the road sent fresh waves of searing agony coursing through my body. The triage nurse took one quick look at the burn pattern and asked me the question I'd been dreading most. "Ma'am, how did this happen?" I hesitated for a moment. In that split second I thought about Ethan, about our 5 years of marriage, about how he'd promised me his mother's stay was only temporary. I thought about how Adeline had systematically isolated me from my friends, criticizing every single gathering I attended. How she'd convinced Ethan that I was wasteful with money, disrespectful to his culture, and completely unfit to bear his children. "My mother-in-law threw boiling water on me," I said, and just saying those words out loud made it feel so much more real. The nurse's eyes widened in shock. "I need to get a doctor and document this right away. Please don't move." As I sat there in that sterile examination room, my phone started buzzing like crazy. It was Ethan. "Naomi? Mom says you had an accident. I'm cutting my trip short. Are you okay?" "An accident?" She'd already gotten to him. Already started spinning her own version of the story. My fingers just hovered over the keyboard for a minute. I could smooth this over, pretend I'd just been clumsy or something. Keep the peace just like I'd been doing for months. Instead I typed, "Your mother assaulted me. I'm at County General. I'm pressing charges." Those 3 little dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again, and then nothing. 20 long minutes passed before he finally called me. "Naomi, let's talk about this when I get home. Mom said you were arguing about the divorce." "Wait, what divorce papers?" So she hadn't told him everything. "Ask your mother," I said, and then just hung up the phone. The police officer who took my statement was a middle-aged black woman named Officer Jenkins. She photographed my burns from every possible angle, her expression growing darker and darker with each shot she took. "This is assault with a deadly weapon," she said bluntly. "Hot water can kill. You were lucky." "Lucky?" I certainly didn't feel very lucky as they debrided my wound, or as the doctor explained to me that I'd have permanent scarring. I didn't feel lucky as they wrapped my shoulder in these thick bandages and prescribed me pain medication I couldn't even afford because Adeline had convinced Ethan we didn't need my income, that I should quit my nursing job to take care of the house. I quit that job just 2 months ago. Biggest mistake of my entire life. Ethan finally arrived at the hospital, just as they were getting ready to discharge me. He looked completely exhausted, confused and angry, but definitely not at his mother. I could see it in his eyes. He was angry at me for making this a public thing, for calling the police, and for not handling this all within the family. "Can we talk in the car?" he asked, not even meeting my eyes. "Did you bring your mother?" I asked him sarcastically. "She's at home. She's elderly, Naomi. She's scared." "She's scared?" "Ethan, look at my arm." I pulled back the hospital gown to show him the bandages. "She attacked me in our kitchen because I refused to sign divorce papers I didn't even know existed. Divorce papers she had drawn up without your knowledge, apparently." His jaw just tightened up. "She told me about the papers. She was just trying to help." Those words hit me harder than the boiling water ever could. "Help? How?" "She thinks we're not compatible. That you don't respect our family values. And honestly, Naomi, the way you've been treating her." I stood up so fast the 4-pole clattered to the ground. "I'm not doing this. Officer Jenkins is filing charges. Your mother will be arrested. You can't be serious. Watch me." I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked myself into a cheap budget motel out on the highway, the kind with peeling paint and a flickering vacancy sign. As I lay there in those scratchy sheets, my shoulder just throbbing despite the pain medication, I finally let myself cry. Not just for the pain, but for the marriage I'd been trying so desperately to save. My phone just wouldn't stop buzzing. Ethan called me 17 times. His mother even called twice. I ended up blocking both of their numbers. Around 2 in the morning, my best friend Janelle called me. Ethan had called her, completely desperate to find me, painting me as all unstable and vindictive. "Girl, what in the world is going on?" she asked, her voice tight with worry. So I told her everything. The months and months of psychological torture, the constant criticisms, how Adeline had convinced Ethan that I was trying to alienate him from his family, how she'd even forbidden me from visiting my own mother, claiming it was disrespectful to leave Ethan all alone, how she'd thrown away my birth control pills, and then told Ethan I'd stop taking them on my own because I was trying to baby trap him. "I found the empty packet in the trash," I said. That's when I confronted her. That's when she showed me the divorce papers. Janelle was silent for a long moment. "Nay, this woman is absolutely dangerous. You did the right thing by calling the police. Where are you?" "I'm coming to get you." She arrived within the hour, carrying overnight bags, food, and this fierce determination in her eyes. "You're staying with me until this whole thing is sorted out," she said. No arguments. As we drove to her apartment, she told me something that just made my blood run cold. "Ethan's first wife. Did he ever tell you why they really got divorced?" "He always said they just grew apart." Janelle just shook her head. "His mother drove her away too." Janelle had done what I'd been too trusting to do. She'd done some investigating while drinking coffee in her kitchen at 3 in the morning. She showed me Facebook messages from Ethan's ex-wife, Kesha, whom she'd managed to track down through some mutual acquaintances. Kesha's story was chillingly familiar. Adeline had moved in with them just 2 years into their marriage, claiming financial hardship. Within months, she'd poisoned Ethan against Kesha, accusing her of infidelity, disrespect, and even trying to steal from the family. The final straw came when Adeline falsely reported Kesha to Child Protective Services, claiming she was abusing their son. Ethan Jr. The agency investigated and found absolutely nothing, but the damage had already been done. Ethan believed his mother over me. I left with absolutely nothing, not even custody of my own son. Adeline made sure of that. She even coached Ethan Jr. to lie about me in court. I haven't seen my son in 4 years. My hands were shaking as I read the messages. Ethan had a son, a 7-year-old boy he barely ever mentioned, who lived with Kesha's parents all the way across the country because neither Ethan nor Kesha had full custody. He told me the custody situation was complicated, and that we'd discuss it later. But there was never a later. There's more, Janelle said gently. Adeline isn't actually destitute. She owns 3 different properties back in Nigeria. She collects rent from every single one of them. She's here on a visitor's visa that she's overstayed by 8 whole months. She's here illegally. Naomi, the room just started to spin. Everything had been a complete lie. Every single story about hardship, every guilt trip about family obligations, every manipulative tactic, all built on lies and deception. How did you even find this out? I asked her, completely stunned. Kesha told me. She's been tracking Adeline for years, just hoping to build a solid case to get her son back. She's been waiting for someone to finally stand up to that woman. I looked down at my bandaged shoulder. Well, it looks like someone finally has. Officer Jenkins called me around 9 the next morning. We've issued a warrant for Adeline Okafor's arrest. Given the severity of the assault and the fact that we've discovered she's overstayed her visa, Immigration and Customs Enforcement has been notified. This is now officially a federal matter. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would jump out of my chest. I'd wanted justice, wanted her held accountable for what she'd done. But hearing the machinery of law enforcement click into motion was both terrifying and exhilarating at the exact same time. What happens now? I asked her. We'll pick her up today. You'll need to come in to give an official statement. And Mrs. Reed, I want you to know that I've seen a lot in my 20 years on the force. What she did to you, what we're learning now she's done to others before. This woman is a predator. You absolutely did the right thing. They arrested Adeline at my house around noon. Ethan called me from a blocked number, somehow bypassing my block. They're taking my mother away in handcuffs, Naomi. The neighbors are all watching. How could you do this to our family? Your mother threw boiling water on me because I wouldn't divorce you, I said, my voice eerily calm. Your mother forged divorce papers. Your mother is in this country illegally. Your mother has been systematically destroying your relationships for years. I didn't do this to your family, Ethan. She did. She's my mother and I'm your wife, or I was. I don't even know anymore. If you don't drop these charges, we're done. I mean it, Naomi. That ultimatum just hung there in the air between us. Choose his abusive mother or our marriage. 6 months ago I would have caved. 6 months ago I would have convinced myself that love meant sacrifice, that family meant tolerating abuse. Then we're done, I said, and I hung up the phone. This time I didn't cry. I just felt this strange hollow relief. The story hit the local news within 48 hours. Woman assaulted by mother-in-law, seeking deportation. My phone just exploded with messages from people I hadn't spoken to in months. Former coworkers, old friends, even distant cousins. Everyone wanted to know if I was the woman from the news. Ethan's family came after me on social media. His sister Patricia posted this long, angry Facebook rant about how I was just a vindictive woman who'd always been jealous of Ethan's close relationship with his mother. How I was destroying their family out of pure spite. How I was using the legal system to punish an elderly immigrant woman who didn't even understand American culture. The comments were absolutely vicious. She's trying to get an old lady deported. Some women just can't handle a strong mother-in-law. This is why men need to be careful who they marry. But then, something completely unexpected happened. Kesha commented on Patricia's post. Adeline Okafor did the exact same thing to me. She's not a victim. She's an abuser who uses her immigration status and her age as shields. Naomi Reed is the bravest woman I've ever seen. She included photos, court documents, medical records from her own accident, where she'd mysteriously fallen down the stairs, which Adeline later admitted to pushing her down in a private message. She even included screenshots of threatening texts. For long years' worth of evidence she'd been collecting. Then other women started to emerge. Ethan's college girlfriend, who'd mysteriously had her tires slashed. A family friend who'd been accused of theft after refusing to lend Adeline money. Even a cousin who'd been ostracized for just questioning Adeline's stories. Within just 24 hours, Patricia's post had over 2,000 comments, and most of them were supporting me. The entire narrative was shifting, and Ethan's family was scrambling to do damage control. My phone rang. It was Ethan. We need to talk. Please just meet me for coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him. We met at the same cafe where we'd had our very first date 6 years earlier. Ethan looked absolutely terrible, with dark circles under his eyes, and his usually neat appearance was completely disheveled. For just a moment I felt that old instinct to comfort him, to fix whatever was hurting him. Then I remembered my shoulder was still healing underneath fresh bandages. "Thank you for coming," he started. "Naomi, I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about my mother, about everything." I just watched him, my coffee untouched. "I talked to Kesha," he continued, and my eyebrows immediately shot up. "She told me things about my mother that I just didn't want to believe. But then I found some documents in my mother's room. The divorce papers she had drawn up. She even forged my signature on them, Naomi. She was planning on tricking you into signing them, and then using them to claim our marriage was over. I knew there had to be more." His voice just cracked. "She's been stealing from me, transferring money to accounts in Nigeria. Over $60,000 in the past 6 months. She's been planning this whole thing out. Getting you out of my life, taking control of my finances, moving her sister's entire family over here. I was just a means to an end. I should have felt vindicated, but honestly I just felt incredibly sad for him. Ethan, she threw boiling water on me, and your first instinct was to defend her. You gave me an ultimatum. Her or our marriage. And you chose her. I know I was wrong. God, Naomi, I know I was so wrong." He reached for my hand, but I just pulled away from him. "Can we fix this? Can we go to counseling? I'll testify against her in court. I'll support you through absolutely everything. Just please don't give up on us." I looked at this man I'd loved, had married, and had built a life with. "Do you even remember our wedding vows?" I asked him quietly. "Of course I do. We promised to forsake all others, to put each other first. You broke that promise, Ethan." Adeline's immigration hearing was scheduled for just 3 weeks after her arrest. She was being held in a detention center, and she wasn't able to make bail because she was considered a flight risk. Ethan had tried to bail her out, but the federal authorities completely denied his request. I was called to testify. Walking into that hearing room and seeing Adeline in that orange jumpsuit, her hair all unpinned and wild, her eyes just shooting daggers at me. It took absolutely everything I had in me not to just run away. But Kesha was there, sitting in the gallery. She just gave me this small nod of encouragement. The prosecutor was this sharp woman named Linda Sweeney. She'd spent the past few weeks building this airtight case. "Ms. Reed, can you please describe the events of April 15th? So I told the story again, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I described all the manipulation, the isolation, the forged documents, and finally the assault. The judge, this gray-haired man with kind eyes, listened to every word I said. Adeline's attorney, some public defender who looked barely out of law school, tried to paint her as just a confused elderly woman who'd had an accident, who'd panicked and made mistakes. My client came to this country seeking a better life. She's contributed to her community, helped her son build a successful business, and she's always maintained strong family values." Linda Sweeney stood up for cross-examination. "Mrs. Okafor, you've been in the United States for how long?" 30 years, Adeline said. Her accent suddenly much thicker than I'd ever heard it before. "And in those 30 years you've become quite successful, haven't you? You own multiple properties in Nigeria, you collect substantial rent, and you have significant savings. Is that correct?" Adeline's lawyer immediately objected, but the judge allowed it. "Yes. But when you told your son and your daughter-in-law that you were completely destitute and needed to live with them, that was false, wasn't it? I just wanted to be close to my family. Close enough to control every single aspect of your son's life? Close enough to drive away 2 of his wives?" The hearing lasted a full 4 hours. By the end of it, I was completely exhausted, but the judge's decision was crystal clear. "Based on the evidence that has been presented," Judge Morrison said, "I find that Mrs. Adeline Okafor has violated the terms of her visitor's visa, engaged in fraudulent activities, and poses a danger to others. She will be deported to Nigeria within 30 days, and is banned from re-entering the United States for a minimum of 10 years. Additionally, the criminal assault charges will proceed in state court." Adeline just screamed. Actual screaming. She was cursing me in both English and Igbo, calling me every vile name you could possibly imagine. Security had to physically restrain her as she just lunged toward where I was sitting. Ethan, sitting right behind his mother, looked like he'd aged about 10 years in just 3 weeks. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed me. I definitely hadn't expected that kind of media attention, but apparently the story had gone completely viral online. The hashtag Justice for Naomi hashtag was even trending. I just gave a brief statement, thanking the legal system and encouraging any other women to speak up about domestic abuse. Some of you may wonder why I didn't just leave, I said, my voice carrying across the courthouse steps. Why I pressed charges against an elderly woman. But abuse is abuse, regardless of the abuser's age or their relationship to you. An immigration status doesn't grant you immunity from the consequences of your actions. What Adeline Okafor did to me, she's done to others. And it stops right now. Then Kesha stepped up and joined me at the microphone. 4 years ago, I left my marriage with absolutely nothing because of this woman's abuse. I lost custody of my own son because I was just too afraid to fight back. Naomi Reed's courage has given me hope that I might actually see my son again. So to anyone who's watching who's in a similar situation, please speak up. Document everything. You deserve so much better than this. The video of our joint statement got 3 million views in just 24 hours. That evening, alone in Janelle's apartment, I finally let myself just process everything that had happened. Adeline was going to be deported. Ethan and I were completely finished. He'd even served me with the actual divorce papers that morning, his lawyer hand-delivering them as I left the courthouse. Everything I'd built over 5 long years was just gone, but I was finally free. The state assault trial took place just 2 months later. Adeline, who was awaiting deportation in detention, was brought into the courtroom wearing prison clothing. She'd lost a lot of weight, and her face was gaunt and hardened. Ethan was sitting in the front row right behind her, but he didn't look at me even once during the entire proceedings. The evidence against her was absolutely overwhelming. My medical records, the photographs of my burns, testimony from the ER doctor, Officer Jenkins's report. The prosecutor even presented Adeline's full history, the forged documents, the financial fraud, and testimonies from Kesha and 3 other women she'd abused over the years. Adeline's defense was simple. She claimed I'd attacked her first, that she'd thrown the water in self-defense, and that I was just a dangerous woman who'd turned her own son against her. Her lawyer brought in a few character witnesses, Patricia, Ethan's aunt, and several members of their church, who all testified that Adeline was just a pillar of the community. But then Ethan was called to the stand by the prosecution. "Mr. Reed," Linda Sweeney said, "what did you find in your mother's belongings after her arrest?" Ethan's voice was barely audible. "Journals. Detailed journals going back over 20 years. Plans for how to control my life. How to remove any women she deemed unsuitable. Notes about my first wife, about Naomi, instructions she'd written to herself about how to manipulate situations, how to turn me against my partners." The entire courtroom went completely silent. She even had pages about how to stage accidents, how to make abuse look like self-defense. She'd practiced her testimony, written it all out word for word, including fake tears and strategic pauses. His voice broke completely. "My mother is sick. She needs help. But what she did to Naomi, to Kesha, to all the others, it was all calculated. It was all deliberate. And I enabled it because I was just too blind to see it." Adeline just erupted. "You ungrateful son. After everything I sacrificed for you, I came to this country with absolutely nothing. I built you up from nothing." The judge banged his gavel loudly. "Mrs. Okafor, control yourself, or you will be removed from this courtroom." The jury deliberated for just 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Second-degree assault, fraud, harassment, and even witness intimidation. Sentencing would be coming later. But the message was crystal clear. Adeline Okafor's reign of terror was officially over. 3 weeks after the trial, I was sitting in my new apartment, a small 1-bedroom I'd rented with some of the money from a GoFundMe that had raised over $50,000 from supporters online. My shoulder had finally healed, but it had left behind a twisted scar that would never fully fade. Physical therapy had helped with the mobility, but I'd never have a full range of motion again. Small price to pay for freedom, I told myself, though some nights I'd trace that scar and wonder if I could have handled things differently. Ethan reached out to me one final time. We met at a park, this neutral territory. He brought papers with him. The final divorce settlement. He was giving me absolutely everything. Half the value of the house, half of his savings, and alimony for 2 years. It was more than I'd expected, and honestly it was more than I'd even asked for. I'm selling the house, he said quietly. Too many bad memories. I'm moving closer to where Ethan Jr. lives now. Kesha and I are working on a custody arrangement. She's even agreed to let me see him. Supervised visits at first. That's good, Ethan. He needs his father. I need to tell you something. He looked at me with these red-rimmed eyes. The night before Mom threw the water on you, I heard her on the phone. She was talking to someone about her plan. About getting you out. I convinced myself that I just misheard her, that she was talking about a TV show or something. But deep down I knew. I knew she was planning something, and I did absolutely nothing. That confession just sat there between us like a third presence. Why are you telling me this? I asked him. Because you deserve to know the truth. I failed you in absolutely every way a husband can fail his wife. I chose my mother's lies over your truth. I stood by while she tortured you. And that night, I could have stopped what happened and I didn't. Tears just started rolling down his face. I'm so sorry. God, Naomi, I'm so sorry. You deserved so much better than me. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to just rage at him, but honestly, I just felt so incredibly tired. Yeah, I did. Adeline was finally deported on a rainy Thursday morning. I didn't attend, but Kesha did. She sent me a video. Adeline being escorted onto a plane, still cursing, still blaming everyone but herself. She never once apologized, Kesha texted me. Not once did she show any remorse. Some people just never change. I stood there in my new apartment, packing the last few boxes of my old life. Photos of Ethan and me, wedding albums, gifts from his family. All of it was either going into storage or the donation bins. I was starting over at 33, single and scarred with a story that would follow me for the rest of my life. But I was alive. I was finally free and I had my voice back. Ethan sent me one final message. Mom died. Heart attack on the plane before it even reached Nigeria. Thought you should know. The funeral is next week if you want to go. Never mind. I'd understand if you didn't take care of yourself, Naomi. I read it 3 times over just waiting to feel something, anything. Relief maybe, or guilt, or even grief. But there was just this numbness, this void. Adeline was gone, really gone this time. And I felt absolutely nothing except this deep resounding no. There was something, this small broken little thing inside me that whispered. Was it worth it? All of it. The justice, the vindication, the truth finally coming out. Was it worth losing absolutely everything? I looked at my reflection in the mirror, stared at the woman who had survived, who had fought back tooth and nail, who had stood her ground when absolutely everyone told her to just sit down and be quiet. My shoulder ached where the scar tissue pulled tight, a constant reminder. Yes, I whispered to her, to that woman in the mirror. It was worth it. But as I locked the door to my new, incredibly small apartment and drove over to Janelle's for dinner, passing by the courthouse where I had testified, the hospital where they patched up my burns, the cafe where Ethan had pathetically begged for forgiveness, I realized something that made my chest feel like it was being squeezed in a vice tight with grief. Justice had cost me absolutely everything. My marriage, my home, my sense of safety and security. Adeline was gone, but the damage she'd done lingered like a bad smell you just can't get rid of. Living in my nightmares, in my constant flinch whenever someone approached just a little too quickly. In my complete and utter inability to trust anyone. I'd won the battle, sure, but I had lost something incredibly precious in the war. The woman I had been before all this, that kettle of boiling water incident, changed absolutely everything. That Naomi who believed so deeply in family and loyalty and love conquering all. She was gone forever, just a ghost. And as I pulled into Janelle's driveway, seeing my best friend waiting for me on the porch with that fierce, protective love shining in her eyes, I finally allowed myself to cry. Not tears of relief or joy, definitely not that. But deep gut-wrenching grief for everything I had lost. Everything that could never, ever be recovered no matter what. Victory had never tasted so damn bitter. If you connected with Naomi's story, please hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated. Share your own experiences in the comments section. You're definitely not alone in this. And always remember, speaking up and telling your truth is always worth it. Even when the cost feels absolutely unbearable. Your voice truly matters.